It's important not to look away from this because this is the death and destruction that our governments, whether you're in the UK or whether you're in the United States of America, this is the death and destruction that our governments are contributing to in very meaningful ways.
Embargo if it doesn't stop its attacks on Gaza, says the Spanish government, which is hosting a meeting in Madrid of Arab and European countries, including the UK, on how to end the war. Today, Israeli airstrikes killed 30 Palestinians, while yesterday 2 members of the International Red Cross were killed. Some limited aid of 107 trucks did enter Gaza, but humanitarian organisations say that much more, up to 600 trucks a day, is what is desperately needed, following 11 weeks of a blockade on aid by Israel. Fergal Keane reports now on the situation facing the youngest members of Gaza's population, and there are distressing images.
We see it, and we hear it. From far away, but in sound and colour, an agony that cannot be denied.
This is Osama, and he is 5 years old.
Today, a British doctor captured these images in the paediatric ward of Nasser Hospital. The young and vulnerable.
Really shocking. Skin and bone.
There was abundant aid that could have helped them. But nearly 3 months of Israeli blockade kept it out of Gaza. How they were once and how they are now.
These children are so malnourished that they're actually wasting away. It's shocking to see this degree of malnutrition, and it's because of the blockade.
The hunger ward, where a colleague first met 5-month-old Siwar Ashur. Allergic to regular milk formula, the special variety she needed was running out under the blockade.
When I change her, her body is very bad and dehydrated. She's like a skeleton. Whenever I look at her, I cry. I cannot bear how thin she is.
Her condition stabilised. And a week ago, Siwar was sent home from the busy hospital with a can of baby formula.
Israel's on Twitter mocking this video of that baby and saying the mother is well fed. Yeah, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see the Israeli response to any of these things because it's fucking horrifying. Also, these images are 1-to-1 the same exact images that you saw from concentration camps in the aftermath of the concentration camps being liberated, just so you understand. The difference, of course, is that this is a live streamed Holocaust. Okay? That's it. That's the only difference, is that this is a Holocaust that is currently being live streamed. So you get to see it in real time.
The situation is very dire. We're staying in a tent, and there are many insects. The insects come at her. I have to cover her with a scarf so nothing touches her.
Even though Israel is now allowing some aid into Gaza, there's nothing like enough nutrition for Siwar. Her mum says her weight has dropped again in recent days.
Currently, there is no food or nutrients. The water is polluted and we force ourselves to drink it. We don't have food or bread.
The shelter was hit by gunfire when people attempted to loot food nearby.
When Siwar hears the sounds of the rockets, she gets startled and she cries. She understands these things. The sound of the tanks, warplanes, and rockets are so loud, and they are close to us. And if she was sleeping, she would wake up startled and crying.
The Israeli government said 3 days ago there was no food crisis in Gaza, but that it was now allowing aid to prevent one. Life is hunger, fear, and trauma. Dr. Wasim Saeed is a British plastic surgeon who's just returned from Gaza. He's treated many children, like 6-year-old Noor, who suffered severe blast and burn injuries in an Israeli airstrike. Lack of nutrition is making it much harder for wounds to heal, he says.
You could see people losing hope. You could see how depressed they were. The nutritional status of everybody was appalling. So grafts were not taking, wounds were not healing.
Yet for all that he's seen, this British doctor wants to go back. It's his human duty, he told us.
None of this needed to happen. Every time you see a child, you think of your own children and how well, you try not to at the time because it would be you couldn't work if you thought, what if this was happened to my daughter, or heaven forbid, or something like that.
Set against the raging war, a child's life is a fragile thing, but loved dearly, from one heartbeat to the next. Fergal Keane, BBC News.
Well, Israel does not allow international media organisations, including the BBC, into Gaza, and we use trusted freelance teams on the ground. Let's turn now to our correspondent, Barbara Pletasher, who's in Jerusalem for us. And Barbara, some terrible scenes of suffering there. We know that some aid has...
It's important not to look away from this, because this is the death and destruction that our governments, whether you're in the UK or whether you're in the United States of America, this is the death and destruction that our governments are contributing to in very meaningful ways. Okay? Whether it be directly giving the bombs to use that end up scarring those children permanently while killing their entire families, or whether it be offering the surveillance and targeting of areas to hit that the British government is helping and aiding in this extermination campaign with their spy planes that fly over the Gaza Strip. We are morally culpable. The largest moral responsibility still falls in the hands of the United States of America, that has offered political cover and also 70% of all the munitions that are used. But it's important for you to see this, and it's important for you to show this to other people, to help them understand our complicity and to help them understand the humanity of the Palestinians. There is a reason why Israel kills journalists. There is a reason why Israel does not want Western media to enter the Strip, because Israel does not want international investigators to document these atrocities. Okay? That's it. Because if Western media were to enter the Strip, if international investigators were to conduct investigations in the Gaza Strip to give a better assessment on the full scale of these atrocities, the world, it would be completely impossible for Israel to deny anything at that point. The only plausible deniability that Israel can entertain at this moment is the Islamophobia that is a permanent fixture in Western political discourse, in Western collective consciousness. Do you understand? That way they can just say Hamas-run healthcare ministry. But once it's no longer Hamas-run healthcare ministry, once it's the United Nations and every single non-government organization that's operating in the area, every single international investigator, all of a sudden, you can't say, well, they're also Hamas. Think about it this way. When Israel says Hamas-run, or America says Hamas-run healthcare, Hamas-run, hold on one second. 1 second. Hold on. I got to do this. Okay. When Israel says Hamas-run Ministry of Health, and the American media repeats that statement, that is, no matter how woke someone might be, that causes them to be skeptical. But when Israel says UN is Hamas, everybody laughs at that, okay? Unless you are literally the most insane Israel dick rider that believes that, okay, that already is completely lapping up all the fucking propaganda. Most people laugh at this notion. What the fuck?
Got in. Are we likely to see any improvement soon?
Well, Israel says it has allowed around 500 lorries carrying food supplies into Gaza over the past week. And some of that has been distributed, but there's been a lot of chaos and insecurity. Desperate people overwhelming bread bakeries, for example, and armed men looting some of the aid. UN officials say that that's because so little has been let in. They say this wasn't a problem during the ceasefire when Gaza was flooded with aid, and that needs to happen again. But Israel is saying no, it's going to try something new. It's going to use a private company backed by the U.S. to distribute food, and arguing that this is going to prevent Hamas from stealing aid and so reduce its influence. But there's a lot of criticism about this plan, not least because this company doesn't have the supplies and the structures that the UN has. And so at best, at the moment, it could only feed about half the population. And then at the same time, you've had this escalation in the war by Israel saying that it wants to finish Hamas off. You had the chief of staff today telling soldiers, in fact, Hamas has been greatly weakened. This is not going to be an endless war. But it really doesn't look like that in Gaza right now, I have to say. People are being squeezed into a smaller and smaller space, and there have been many civilians killed during military operations over the weekend, Rita.
Thank you. Barbara Pletusher reporting there.
The G word, genocide. Most media outlets in the West, even now, even as Israel continues to proudly flatten Gaza and starve the Palestinians of Gaza, refuse to use the term genocide. Joe Biden last year went out of his way to say what's happening in Gaza is not genocide. Keir Starmer refuses to say it is. And pro-Israel groups often accuse anyone who says Gaza is a genocide of perpetrating an anti-Semitic blood libel. And yet here's the thing they don't want you to know. Genocide experts are almost all in agreement that what's happening is a genocide, per the legal definition under the Genocide Convention, acts committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial or religious group. So here are the names, the expert names you need to know, including Jewish and...
Dude, by the way, the counter to this was so funny. The Hasbara counter to this was just like to bring up a bunch of like generals and former, like random generals and former American members of like the State Department to be like, well, these are genocide experts too. It's like, no, they're not. They're not. You're just claiming that they're genocide experts. Like you can't say like Alan Dershowitz doesn't consider it a genocide and then make it seem as though Alan Dershowitz is a fucking expert of genocide. It is so fucking stupid. Yeah, I'm wrong. I know. Yeah, the joke is, yes, Alan Dershowitz and American generals are experts in doing a genocide, but their opinion is not necessarily worth a damn in this process, don't you think? Yeah, it's like asking the fucking Nazi generals whether or not Adolf Eichmann, genocide expert, you know?
Israeli experts on the subject of genocide to avoid being gaslit by apologists for Israel. First, there are the academic experts who say Gaza is a genocide. Martin Shaw, who literally wrote the book, What is Genocide? Melanie O'Brien, who is the literal president of the International Association of Genocide Scholars. Dirk Moses, who is the senior editor of the Journal of Genocide Research. Eva Vukušić, who helped prosecute the Srebrenica genocide. William Shabas, who even defended Myanmar against charges of genocide, against the Rohingya, but says what Israel is doing in Gaza now is a genocide. There are also the Israeli genocide experts, the Israeli historians of the Holocaust, who say Gaza is a genocide. Professors Omar Bartov, Amos Goldberg, Daniel Blattman, Raz Siegel, Lee Mordecai, Dr. Shmuel Lederman, who was originally opposed to calling Gaza a genocide, but now says, quote, what Israel is doing in Gaza is genocidal in every sense. Then there are the human rights groups who say Gaza is a genocide. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, the legal clinics at top US universities who say it's a genocide, at Boston University School of Law, at Cornell Law School, at Yale Law School. The United Nations organizations and experts who say it's a genocide, the UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry, the UN Special Committee to investigate Israeli practices, multiple UN special rapporteurs. In fact, speaking the other week to the Dutch newspaper NRC, the Israeli expert Raz Siegel said, can I name someone whose work I respect who doesn't consider it genocide? His answer, no. The Israeli expert Shmuel Lederman says it's now the consensus view among genocide researchers. So apologists for Israel and lazy and cowardly both sides media outlets might want to reject the charge of genocide in Gaza. They might want to pretend it's hyperbole or even anti-Semitic. But the experts, the actual experts on genocide, they know a genocide when they see one, and they see one in Gaza. Did you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on notifications for exclusive...
The counter to this is fucking ridiculous. It's just not serious at all. All right.
Tonight,
there's also another story. An American charged with plotting to bomb a U.S. office, U.S. embassy office in Israel, which is a crazy story. I'm gonna get to the. Oh yeah, this is Fox News is fucking covering it because Trey Yingst is covering it. Hold on, I gotta pee first though, so I'm just gonna.
This is the suspect facing here.
Yeah, well, Attorney General Pam Bondi said that new mayor faces accusations of planning to attack this U.S. embassy behind me and threatening the lives of American citizens and President Donald Trump. If convicted, he could face...
Now, remember what I said about the other one, the other story, Elias Gonzalez, and whether or not it had the makings of a false flag operation doesn't change the reality that I think it was a genuine actor. This, on the other hand, is a very, or not Gonzalez, sorry, Rodriguez. This, on the other hand, very weird story. Okay? Very weird story because the background of this guy is insane. And the things that he has said... Like the things that he posted about when he like moved to Israel to, and how pro-Israel he was before he just like flipped the fucking script and just started saying death to America and shit. Something about this is not adding up at all. I'm just going to point that out. Don't know what the deal is, but I do not have the same assessment that I had with I do not have the same assessment that I had with the previous story. As opposed to this one.